Welcome to today's debate podcast. We're diving into a hot topic, Australia's recent ban on social media for children under the age of 16. The policy is hailed as groundbreaking by some, yet criticized by others. Our discussion will explore both sides of the argument.
Thanks for having me. I think Australia's move, though bold, is setting an important precedent globally. It's not just about blocking social media, but about setting a moral and legal line that nudges society towards greater parental involvement in children's online activities.
That's an interesting take. However, critics argue that such bans have historically failed, akin to how teenagers still find access to alcohol and cigarettes, despite strict regulations. Isn't it likely that tech-savvy teens will find workarounds?
Absolutely, there will be attempts to bypass the ban, but the broader aim is to initiate conversations around digital safety. By empowering parents to say no, it addresses the societal norm and opens up discussions about the dangers of algorithmic rabbit holes and online bullying.
Yet the opposition persists. Notably, there are legal challenges expected against this initiative. Could the government withstand this pressure, especially with the reported controversies surrounding the communications minister?
The government has expressed confidence in its stance. True, the attention on Minister Annika Wells due to her expenditures does pose distractions. However, I believe the core policy is still on stable grounds, illustrating a firm commitment to child safety in digital spaces.
Critics argue that the minister's actions could undermine the policy's legitimacy. The appearance of privilege, while ordinary Australians are struggling, could detract from the government's moral authority on this issue.
Maintaining moral authority is crucial, I agree. It's imperative that public officials reflect the values they aim to enforce. Nonetheless, the Prime Minister is expected to address these distractions, which could align the leadership more closely with the policy's objectives.
In terms of societal impact, some view this policy as overreach. By restricting access, are we inadvertently isolating youths whose social lives are increasingly online?
That's a valid concern. Yet, by creating a robust legal and societal framework, we potentially protect younger generations from the detrimental effects of prolonged and unsupervised social media exposure. It's about balancing access with responsibility.
Closing arguments. As we've discussed, the ban has sparked necessary debates on online safety. While there are implementation and perception challenges, it fuels a critical examination of how technology influences young minds.
Indeed, it's about more than just limiting access. It's about leading a cultural shift towards responsible digital citizenship. Whatever the outcome, this conversation is a significant step in addressing the complex relationship between youth and social media.
Picking up from where we left off, it's essential to delve deeper into the implications of this social media ban in Australia. As we discussed earlier, it's seen by some as a protective measure for youth, potentially fostering a healthier developmental environment. But there's this nagging question about whether the government has overstepped its bounds, especially considering prior controversies.
Absolutely, and you've hit on a critical point there. The issue of enforceability looms large over this legislation. Critics argue that given past failures with government digital initiatives, like the infamous data breaches, trust in effective enforcement is understandably low. This skepticism extends to whether the ban can genuinely keep children off platforms or if it inadvertently pushes them towards more clandestine means of accessing social media.
That's a fascinating point. When restrictions become too rigid, people, especially tech-savvy youths, find workarounds. There's a risk that this ban, while well-intentioned, could inadvertently drive behaviors underground, making it harder for parents and authorities to monitor and guide safe social media use.
Exactly. And let's not forget the digital literacy aspect here. Instead of outright bans, some experts suggest boosting digital education for both kids and parents. If children are more informed about the potential dangers and how to navigate them, they might be better equipped to make safer choices online.
Yes, education seems like a more sustainable approach in the long run, doesn't it? Teaching children to critically engage with social media content prepares them for future challenges in the digital world. Plus, It encourages open dialogue at home about online interactions.
And this touches on the societal norms aspect you mentioned. Establishing a norm where parents are more engaged with their children's digital lives seems like a positive step. But it also raises questions about privacy and autonomy, especially as children get older.
Right, finding that balance is tricky. Teens naturally crave more privacy and autonomy. As we've seen in other countries with similar policies, too much restriction can lead to friction at home and greater rebellion. It might be more effective to guide rather than to restrict outright.
That's an interesting observation, especially considering the global perspective on such bans. Looking at countries that have implemented similar rules, like South Korea's digital curfews, there are lessons to be learned in terms of effectiveness and reception by the public.
Indeed, and each country's sociocultural context plays a massive role in how these policies are implemented and perceived. What works in one country might not work in another due to different societal structures and attitudes towards government intervention.
But coming back to Australia, the political climate is particularly turbulent right now, which affects public trust. The controversy casts doubt on whether introducing such a sweeping law is the right step at this moment. It could be seen as a diverting tactic from these larger trust issues.
Such a valid point. If the broader political trust isn't there, any policy, no matter how well-intentioned, is viewed through a lens of skepticism. The timing of this ban's introduction may not be very opportune, given what's happening within the government.
Ultimately, it comes down to weighing the potential benefits against the risks. While the ban carries the promise of safeguarding young users, the questions surrounding enforceability, potential unintended consequences, and the timing with respect to public sentiment cannot be ignored.
Exactly. As with many policy issues, it's a matter of finding the right balance between protecting freedoms and ensuring safety. The conversation needs to include multiple stakeholders if it's to have any chance of success. It seems like a collaborative dialogue between the government, parents, educators, and indeed, the children themselves could yield more nuanced solutions.
Perhaps experimenting with pilot programs or focusing on parental controls and education initially might garner more public support and offer a more flexible yet effective solution. That could demonstrate an adaptive approach, showing willingness to adjust based on what works and what doesn't.
That's a really pragmatic suggestion. Hopefully, as the debate progresses, we'll see more of these middle ground solutions come to the fore, a merging of protective measures with empowering education. Well, that's all we have time for today, but it's been an enlightening discussion.
Definitely, it's been a pleasure unpacking this complex issue with you. Thanks to all our listeners for tuning in. Stay tuned for more insightful conversations in our upcoming episodes.